All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, and there's Jonas Siegel from The Athletic.
My man.
Jonas
How
is in the house.
are we doing, Jonas?
I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you.
Me?
I love when it starts this way. What are you picking away at the O-Dog?
So
Let's hear it, man.
I was watching the show yesterday, and I thought you were unduly harsh on Darcy Kuemper. I think you owe him an apology. I thought you were too hard on Darcy Kuemper.
There you go. The president of the Darcy Kuemper fan club.
What do you think about that?
You have to apologize. Jonas is demanding.
Well, let me tell you something, Jonas. I've been doing this job a long time, and I'm sick and tired of seeing goalies just pick and choose when they're going to start games or when they're ticked off. If it was scheduled for rest, where it was like, you know what, don't even bring your gear to Toronto because you're playing in Montreal. You can just, you don't even have to come to Toronto. Go from Ottawa to Montreal and be the best Darcy Kuemper you can be. Then go ahead, and I apologize. But I believe he got an 8 spot put up on him, and he got poopy pants and said, screw you guys, I'm not doing this tomorrow, so suck on that one. That's what I believe to have happened.
You think that's what happened? Do you know if Kuemper's playing tonight in Montreal?
I don't, but that's a tough trip for them all of a sudden. They give up 8, and then they give up 6.
Have you ever heard of a goalie just saying, I'm not even dressing, but I'll play the next night? Like, isn't it worse if he plays tonight? He comes bombing out of the Bell Center, and he's been nailing back hot dogs. And
I think it is, yes.
Yes, I agree.
But if that does happen, maybe that was the plan the whole time. Like I've said, I've watched a lot of games as an analyst, and I've seen goalies in warm-up skate up to the other goalie 5 minutes before warm-up's over and, like, grab his hand, and he's like, nah, you can't do it. It's like, what are you talking about? And they just disappear. And especially in this market, Jonas, how many times have you seen – just can't go. Not going. And it's just went from Freddie Anderson to Jack Campbell, and it never ended. Matt Murray.
Ilya Samsonov.
Ilya Samsonov, it's just like, hurting a big game. Game 7, not going. This guy's how did we start the show like this? Did you put
I don't know. I just wanted to come in and throw a dart.
I had no idea he was going there. I really had no idea he was going there. I didn't realize that you were such a goalie hugger, Jonas. And I
actually am not. I can't wait to talk about some of these contracts that are getting handed out.
We will happily do that, but I didn't realize you would be so defensive when it comes to the opinion that there are clearly goalies in this league that are pulling the chute. I think it's clear, and it's not specifically
would he pull the chute like
guy.
3 games into his career with that team?
He's got guaranteed. Guys have guaranteed contracts. I don't know the specifics on this one. Let's face it. He gave up 8, and then all of a sudden it was, I'm not playing. There may have been something to that. The Joseph Wall stuff, like, again, with players, with skaters, and you can speak to this, there's a difference between you're hurt and you're injured.
Yes.
And the reality is with goalies, and Noodle speaks on this all the time, and some of it is an old school mentality. You got to play, man. It's like quarterbacks in football. I don't care if you have a separated shoulder with your non-throwing arm. You have to play. We need you to play. And with goaltenders, it's really similar in a lot of ways. You need your number one guy to play. And if it's, little tight, can't go, that is not good for morale.
Fair. But he might be hurt. What if he's hurt?
Yeah.
Okay,
and it's always something that, and I've talked to a bunch of people throughout the league where they're like, we looked at the MRI and we don't really see anything. And then you talk to the player and they're like, that's just like a tweak. It's like tight.
Yeah.
So it's all these undetectable things where I don't know. And
you should do that. You guys should do that for this show. You should just be like, yeah.
Wow, we battle through
today.
We fight, man. We fight and we battle and we show up and we got an Iron Man streak going right now.
Yeah.
I think so.
Cal Ripken?
It's closing in on Cal Ripken territory. It's been a while since one of us pulled the chute with the sniffles. I've done that in the
Jonas,
past.
I'm not accusing of someone directly pulling the chute. All I'm saying, from what I've seen the last 13 years, the optics of it are pretty incredible. I mentioned yesterday, Shesterkin, Hellebuck, Vasilevsky. It's not like, oh, my knee, the tweak. They never wheel out. How come they never do that?
Yeah, it doesn't. It does seem like
it's
a
never
coincidence.
after unbelievable performances. It's always when they're getting shelled. Oh, I got a tweak. It's, what? A tweak? You got a play better problem, son. Play better problem.
That does seem, again, it's not science. We can't give you any guarantees. You don't see a lot of guys say can't go when they've got a shutout cooking. You know, right?
First
you don't see
star
a
of the
lot
week,
that.
this goaltender. Oh, tweak. You never see that.
So it's
You
like
never
8 goalitis
see that.
or something?
It's usually goalitis. It's generally speaking, the old can't come out for the third because he gave up 5 and he's bent out of shape. Not feeling right now.
But did you
It's
watch
like Tiger Woods, the same thing. If Tiger's 4 under par, he is peacocking around a golf course. This guy slashes one and he's 2 over, back.
I remember that. Didn't that happen recently?
Yes, it happened at Riviera. He shanked the ball
Wasn't
at
there
18.
an ambulance that came out and took him away?
Yes, there was. If he was leading the golf tournament, do you think
He would
Tiger
have been
Woods?
dialed in. He would have been winking at chicks in the stands. He would have been peacocking around. I saw him in San Diego at the Farmers Open. Slash it around the green, chipping like a 25 handicap. He grabbed his ass cheek and said, "I'm out." I blew my ass cheek out. I blew my ass cheek out, and I'm walking off this golf course.
That's right.
If he chipped in for the lead, it would have been Tiger Woods, man, chest out, looking at babes, winking at babes.
Yes.
But no, he just had his head down. He said, "I'm out of here."
Meet me at Perkins Diner. I'm leading the golf tournament,
Yes.
and I'm in the mood for a great
I'll
time.
be in the parking lot after an omelet and with no gear on, and I'm ready. Anyway, that's the goalie story.
Anything else bothering you these days, Jonas, about what O has to say, what I have to say?
Well, it bothers me.
Anything
Well,
else,
Jonas,
City
do
of
you have any
Toronto?
counter to what we just said? Like, what's your counter to it?
I guess my counter is like he might be hurt, and then I watched the Kings last night, and they did not exactly look great. That was not a great game.
Well, but those aren't connected. Like whether or not the team's playing well.
to be fair to Jeff, some of those goals were not great the other night.
In Ottawa, you mean?
Yeah, it was rough.
It was
horrid.
rough. It was rough.
Goaltending.
I don't know.
And the Kings, it didn't look great last night, but the Leafs were the beneficiary of that.
You know what I'm going to do, though? I'm going to start a list. I'm like, just while I'm watching the show, just mark things down that I don't like. And then the next time I come on, I'll just have this like 67
just like a
point
scroll.
list. Yeah.
You just unravel this.
Hayes,
scroll.
on April 24th, you said this.
We should
wrong.
do that. We should do that once a month. You come in and you just absolutely blast our opinions and our different takes.
People
and
hate
views.
the truth, Hayes. We're always right, and people hate the truth, so the list will be long.
I remember this. Saints Chiefs. I was watching and it's like, these guys are betting on the Saints?
We didn't take the Saints.
You did take the Saints.
No, we didn't
You
take the
did.
Saints. They took the Saints. They took the Saints.
Are you sure?
That's
I'm pretty
wrong.
sure it was Owen
That
Wilson.
is
I don't think
wrong.
so.
Doogie, we need a judgment on this. Doogie will look it
I
up.
remember it, and I was like, are these guys crazy? They're picking
There's no
against
way.
the
Nah,
Chiefs?
we
No
might
way.
have done
Plus
it. We
5.5?
might have
No,
done it.
they did it. It was Owen
Are you
Wilson.
sure?
And you're right
Yes.
about that, Jonas. You have the right for a gripe because that was a buffoonery pick.
Yes.
And it has spiraled them out of control. And Luke Wilson's coming in here today. I'm going to place eyes on this guy in about an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I have a feeling he's going to look disheveled and he's going to be down in the dumps because Hayes and Bro have a chance to spark history tonight and take the lead with this Thursday nighter. Now, it is a disgusting Thursday nighter. It is gross. Denver, New Orleans, like no one's playing on either side in terms of uber talent. There's no offensive weaponry.
Possibly the worst game of the year.
It's not a good game, but Sean Payton's returning to New Orleans. There's some nostalgia there. I would assume he'll get a very good reaction, I would think. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But, yeah, we do have that game tonight. Luke Wilson coming up. Bruce Boudreau in about an hour. The Leafs with a win last night. Leafs are 3-1. Mm-hmm. I have noticed in the city and among the fan base, the trap has been set by the Leafs, and people are falling right into it. And I don't want to put a negative spin on what I think has been a really good start.
Sure.
I didn't think last night was overly lively, but the Leafs are a better team, and they said we're going to win. And credit to them, because over 82 games, sometimes you need that, where the other team's just not got it. You do whatever you have to. You put 6 on the board. The big guy scores. We called it. That was the lock of the century that Matthews was going to score last night, and he did. So he gets off the Schneid in terms of him scoring a goal, and he picked up, I think, a couple of assists. And the power play, they scored a couple of times last night. So everyone's happy, and we're moving on. This is a good thing. And the team's a good team. They're a really good team. They're going to be a really good regular season team. 4 games. 4 games in. I had someone write me today, said, Hazy B, I got to ask you, what's the plan for the deadline? Do they go all in? Do you throw Easton Cowan on the board? I'm like, guys, it's 4 games in. Yeah. This is what they're relying on. Heath Pelly, Brendan Shanahan, Brad Treliving, everyone to completely forget about the past.
Yep.
Completely forget about the playoffs. Have no actual perspective on what is going on with this team and where it could end up going. And just fall right into, I knew it, I love it, Stollar's for the Vezina, give everyone an extension, Mitch Marner, pay him $13 million, everything's going to work. We're 4 games in. 4 games in.
I will
Everyone
say
just breathe a little bit here.
I say screw that, by the way. Just be positive, enjoy it. There's been so many letdowns in the past, and fans have had their heart broken. Just run with it.
This is what happens every year. Every single year. Okay, then if they lose in Game 7 to Boston again, what then? What then?
Like, you know what pro sports is, Hazy. We'll kick it down the road, and we'll deal with that Game 7 loss.
Right.
I will say one thing. They got the ultimate compliment. I am back in the lab with the life coach. It's not like I took the summer off. Golf gets in the way, busy, kids, trips. I am getting ready for phase 2, which is going to be an incredible phase. It's going to take it to the next level. And in the middle of lifting very heavy weights doing chest, my life coach said, the Leafs look like, we don't talk ever when we're lifting. We got earbuds in, we're dialed in.
When we're lifting, relax with the gym terminology.
Dude, when we lift every day now. And that's one of the changes.
All right. Go ahead.
He took a break, and the only thing he said to me, he goes, one thing I'll say about the Leafs, they looked a little bit the last 4 games like the teams that always beat them out. I said, Coach, maybe you're onto something there. Okay. I thought that was a nice little nugget and a compliment.
I think that's a great compliment, and I agree with that assessment. I agree with that assessment. I'm not saying I disagree with what I've seen. I'm saying it's 4 games.
I agree with Hayes.
It's 4 games here.
Dude, I don't care. I'm going to be excited about it. I love the way they're playing.
Right.
I love what the coach is doing out there. The coach is setting the standard early on, what's acceptable for certain guys and what's going to happen. You look at Bobby McMahon, didn't like the way he came into training camp. Didn't play Game 1, had to sit and marinated, scored goals ever since. Timothy Liljegren, don't like the way you're doing what you're doing in training camp. You're not starting. He got an opportunity. I did not love his game last night, but that's how things are going to happen. You let a stupid one in and call a timeout and wake the bleep up. Mm-hmm. I like the standard. Obviously, there's going to be some hurdles with the top-end players because there's always going to be a double standard with those types of high-end, high-price guys. But the groundwork has been laid, and I like what I'm seeing. The whole operation, I like it through 4 games.
I think what Hayes is saying, I'll be your translator, your Hayes translator. We have seen them win a lot of regular season games before. You remember that, right?
Dude, Jonas, I don't care. All I deal with is the now.
Okay?
Yeah.
We have to analyze what's going on.
They look really
what do you
good.
want me to just throw up my arms and say, I'm not doing regular season games, forget it?
No, that's not the point.
That's fair.
That's not the point. That's not what I'm suggesting.
Hayes, you're getting sucked into a vortex of negativity from this turkey, and I don't like what I'm hearing from you
negativity.
either.
It's not negativity. I'm trying to have perspective. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I
think you can have your cake and eat it too. I think there can be 2 truths here, that this is a really good start, really strong. Sure. They look good. The offseason moves have all been outstanding. And
after 4 games.
And that's all I'm saying is that, like, we spent the whole summer saying, I can't believe they did that again. I can't believe, and now we're 4 games in and we're like
this is great.
Do everything and lock everything in. And, I mean, listen, trying to determine, I guess another part of this is trying to determine, like, what's real and what isn't. I know what Matthews is. I know what Marner is. I know what Nylander is. I know what a lot of different things are. I think I get a pretty good read on Chris Tanev. Is this the real Ekman-Larsson? Because if it is, it feels like a steal. Mm-hmm. And is this the real Anthony Stolarz? Because if it is, that feels like a steal. And, like, Stolarz in particular, the way that he defends, how big he looks in there, it's a lot of confidence. Like, watching him play through 3 starts, there's a lot of confidence. Like, the way he plays quiet in the net. Noodles mentions that all the time. He's a big dude. I like where it's at. Like, I don't think he can start 50-plus games yet. I'm not to that point because I have to abide by my own rule here today, which is perspective. I'm not going to jump to a conclusion he's going to give you 55 starts.
How old is he, Jonas?
He is, I believe he's 30.
30, 31, yeah.
Yeah, well, if he hasn't played 55 games in the National Hockey League, there's probably a reason for it.
Dude, he hasn't played 25 games in a season.
Thanks. So
Fact
there is
checking.
It's true.
He's fact-checking. He's Daniel Dale.
I know he's
Daniel
fact-checking.
Dale today. That's
he
who
is.
you are.
He's fact-checking, and there's a concern. If you want to get too overconfident, maybe Stolarz, if he plays too much, might turn into a pumpkin, and you're like, what are we going to do now?
That's negative. Don't
but
say
that's
that.
just, why do that? I'm just about the now, and I'm about the positive. I
Well-
don't know why Jonas came on the show today and he wants to just bury everything, and it's not good.
You
enough
were
for
being
him.
negative
Jonas is
yesterday.
being
You were
very
calling this
negative.
guy out, and I was just correcting it.
Being very negative. Yeah, well, that has nothing to do with the Leafs necessarily. But like
Toronto-based show.
you can see the poll question that's up there. Who has been your favorite addition to the team through the start of the year? And Anthony Stolarz is kind of running away with this.
Who would you vote for?
Mine's Ekman Larson. I don't even think it's close. He's been physical. He's been moving the puck. He's been feisty, hitting guys. I've never really seen that. So all the times I watched him play, he's always just a smooth skating guy that gets the puck out, makes good passes. I've really liked what he's brought to the table.
I agree. I think he's been outstanding. I think it's tough to look past Stolarz, through 3 starts.
Mm-hmm.
Like he gave up 1 at the Bell Center opening night, and it was cross-ice Caulfield power play shelf. Like, well, I don't know how he's stopping that. I'm not sure anybody else is in the league. Like he has played well enough to put this team in a position where they should be 4-0. Like they really should be. Instead, they're 3-1. It's not a problem. But I think I might answer Stolarz because of the Wall scenario. Because Joseph Wall hasn't been playing, it opened the door for some concern, for a black cloud, for an issue, and he's completely eradicated that. And it really sent a message to his teammates and the fan base, like, I got this and it's all good. And Joseph Wall will return, and he will get his starts. And if he's healthy, I have no doubt he'll play well because he's a talented player. But Stolarz has put his stake in the ground first. And sometimes that's all that matters. Like, who got there first and who made the first impression. And because Wall has been MIA based on injury, Stolarz was given that ability, and he's got a lot of catching up to do. It
was always going to be a combination of both of the guys. That's what a tandem is. But the problem with the tandem, I've always said, is when you get to playoffs, sometimes when you have a tandem, you don't have the one guy for the playoffs. And that's a dangerous game because we've seen time after time. Game 7 in Boston, Freddie Anderson went out without his gear on, and it was ugly. Mm-hmm. One guy can't play in Game 7. It's just Samsonov in Game 7. It's just time, and Jack Campbell. It's just... Sometimes you just need one guy who's dominant, and you can name that guy a month before the playoffs and let him get ready for the playoffs, and it works out. But then I'm not going to get negative like Jonas today. That's why it's so difficult to win, is because you need all of this stuff to come together. You need your good players to be clutch and come through at the right time. You need the goaltending. You need defense, physicality. All of it's got to come together. And it seems like the Leafs, when they get to that Game 7 moment, it's always one thing. It's one goal away. It's a save. It's a penalty kill. It's always that one thing.
It is a thin line. Like that's to their credit, again, really putting a positive spin on this. They don't get blown out in Game 7.
Well, that's good.
That is a positive
because that matters.
Once again, if we're just assessing the now, and this is a dangerous, thing from Paul Zhang, who wrote and said. And I've heard this before. Hazy B, this team at least feels different.
Oh, well, there you go.
Paulie, watch out for
Paulie
that.
Zhang.
If they continue to develop, and I mentioned Craig Berube and the habits and what's acceptable and their approach to the game. And I've talked a lot about their approach to the game over the last 6 or 7 years, where a lot of times they would like to be skilled and just be the Harlem Globetrotters out there and will wing it and fly through the neutral zone. And they're so good, sometimes that'll win. But on nights you don't have it, you will not win playing like that. Tough opponents, you will not win like that. You have your B game, you will not win like that. And most importantly, come playoff time, you will not win like that. So if they continue to work on the base that they're working on and different habits that are acceptable and unacceptable, you have something where on back-to-back nights against a good team, you're going to have a chance to win. against a real good quality opponent that's physical, you're going to have a chance to win. And most importantly, come playoff time, you will give yourself a great chance to win with the talented players they have. So it's something to build on.
Okay.
Your thoughts?
I mean, I think I know what he's saying, and I think one thing you can give them credit for this year that was an issue in the past is like they would play those not good teams, and it's like, what's going on here? They're losing
Especially
to Chicago early in the season. It's like, then you don't win the division, and then everyone's talking about, well, you're facing this,
because they would throw their sticks out there and say, let's try to score a goal and see if we can win like that. There was no game plan, no identity, and it was wing it. And it doesn't work in that league. It does not work, man.
Why I do think there was like a symbolic moment last night with Berube calling that timeout. It's 5-2, it's over. How many times have we seen in the past where that turns into 6-5 in overtime?
But I feel like I've seen Sheldon Keefe do that too. Like that didn't strike me as like, oh my God, I've never seen that before.
You ever heard the term, that one hit different?
Oh God.
Well, because it worked.
Dude, it did. The look on his face, how serious it was. It literally was, don't ever bleep and do that again.
Yes.
I mean, I guess the timing of it is significant. Like, that's the fourth game of the season.
That's the thing. It's 4 games in, and again, I don't remember exactly when Sheldon Keefe would call timeouts. I don't recall up 5-2 doing that personally. Okay. I do feel like there were times where it was like, why didn't you call a timeout? This is getting away from you. But also referencing what you just did, just following up with what you just said, Jonas, countless times in the past, that would turn into 6-5. Yeah. And they might get the 2 points. You're like, whoa, they escaped. Why were you in that position? Mm-hmm. And that is what ultimately needs to change during the regular season, is just give yourself that opportunity. And maybe that's what Berube's pointing to. And this should have been an organizational, driving note, if you want to, speak on it that way, or I guess directive or message, is try and win your division.
Yes.
And you can't throw away stupid games when you've got them in the back pocket. And they've done that so many times in the past, where you're up 3-1 against Chicago and you lose 4-3 and piss away a point. Like, what are you doing against that team? You're so much better than them. Just take the rest of the game seriously and you close this out. And that's, I think, what kind of happened last night, because to the credit of the Kings, they were shelling them to start the second period. The shots were 9 or 10-0 or whatever it was, and LA was in it, and they score a couple. And then the Leafs settled down, and they, I thought, played a very appropriate third period to close the game out. And every point is going to count. And if you can find a way to stay ahead of these other beasts in your division, it will be so beneficial. And it should be what's driving them right now. And I don't know if that's what.
Last night?
Yeah, go ahead.
I liked a lot William Nylander. I'm not going to go as far as to say it was the Jordan game in Utah or anything, but not feeling well. I thought he was, if not the best player on the ice, he was pretty damn close to it.
That line was really good. Bobby McMahon.
He played with some piss, and he was on it, and he was flying, and he just played like a grown-ass man. I really liked his game last night.
Yep, I agree.
I think, I don't know, I'm not going to say this would have happened last year, but there might have been a time where it was like, nah, I'm not feeling well, so I'm not going to do that. It was just like, I put my gear on and I'm here to play, and I'll go home and mope afterwards and not feel well. That was a great game from him. I loved his game last night.
That line was a really strong line last night.
Well, I guess that's part of this too. Like, all those guys, Nylander, Matthews, Marner, they're like they're not 30, but they're 27, 28.
They're
like
9 years into their career.
Right? They're like at a different point in their career too, where that kind of thing is just going to happen more, right?
Yeah.
When they were youngsters, somebody once told me, a wise man told me, a lot of times in the National Hockey League, the 28, 29-year-olds beat the 23-year-olds.
Yeah.
Well, guess what it is now?
That's their wheelhouse. Yep, that's what is expected now, and that was a big one last night. Again, they got the Rangers here on Saturday. That'll be a real test.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big boy test.
Legit team. Shesterkin, I'm sure, will be playing in that game. All right, Jonas, we're going to put you to the test here. You have 3 things you believe Brad Treliving has gotten right and 3 things he's got wrong.
Yes, I'm judging this after 4 games.
Well, I mean, you could speak on, I guess, his whole run here. It's only been a year and a half.
Are you trying to break Twitter?
I just think it makes sense for Jonas to do this. I think Jonas has been very vocal.
Turn your mentions off.
About Treliving, previous GMs here in town. I think this will be very intriguing to see what he's got. So you have a 3-pack on both sides. I have my list today. Hazy be listing, and I've come up with the 5 sporting figures within their own market that are taking the most heat. 5
Just
sports
say it
figures.
properly. The 5 guys that are hated the most by their own fan base.
It's just so harsh to put it that way.
Dude, it's got to be that way.
Okay.
The 5 most hated athletes in their home base.
It's not just athletes. I want to say that. It's not only athletes, it's sports figures in general. So it could be athletes, coaches,
I already know one guy
owner.
that's in there, and he ain't a player.
Well,
probably 2 of them.
I'll say it. There is someone from Toronto that's on that list.
Okay.
Yeah, is it a 2-headed monster?
And it might be a 2-headed monster. We'll get to that later this afternoon. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Saints Broncos tonight. Denver laying 2.5 or 3. We'll see come kickoff or come the pick in about an hour. Luke Wilson will be in here. Al's brother will join us. Bruce Boudreau coming up. We got a couple of big games tonight. Vancouver and Florida. You got Edmonton and Nashville tonight. The Leafs are back in action on Saturday against the Rangers. And a couple of ball games, too, where the Dodgers beat up on the Mets last night. 8-0.
Smoked them, man.
Smoked them. And Ohtani basically closed the door. Like, he hit a moonshot last night.
Yeah.
And he's been
I can't
good.
wait till the Yankees play the Dodgers in the World Series, and everyone's going to be like, this isn't fair. We don't have the money to spend like that.
I know. Well, all 3 of them.
Oh, yeah.
All
for
3
sure.
of them. Like, the Mets, I believe, still have the highest payroll in baseball, and they got rid of Verlander and Scherzer. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then you got the Pittsburgh Pirates that send down our boy because he doesn't want him to. They don't want him to get a $200,000 bonus.
That's right.
Rowdy Tellez.
Tellez.
He needed to play like 5 games for a bonus, and Pittsburgh's so cheap and they're so brutal. They're like, oh, we got to send you down. Pathetic.
But that is pathetic. And Rowdy's
Dude,
a great guy, man. We had him on a bunch when he was here with the Jays. He was a great
Imagine
interview.
you were that ace of that team. Who's that stud pitcher they have?
Paul Skeens.
Skeens.
Yeah.
Like he. If I was him, I'd walk up to ownership and be like, "Are we really going to run this operation like this? Because if you want to keep doing it, I'll be ninja dust. So just watch yourself."
It's embarrassing. Like, it's a
It
horrible
is.
look for the rest of the league. Like,
Right.
I'm going to sign there, and you're going to put some bonus in, and you're going to pull the plug on me before I can hit it when I'm fully healthy and
Dude,
capable of
embarrassing,
playing.
man.
That is embarrassing. But, yeah, Mets, Yankees, Dodgers all have a payroll, I believe, over $300 million. And
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
no, I hear you. They're spending money, exactly, and it's worked. Yet the Mets are trying to play the role as if they're these pesky underdogs. And they're all making a fortune.
Hey, it's working somehow.
It is.
It is working.
It is.
Like
They
their
need
whole
one
mojo,
tonight, though,
yeah.
man. Down 2-1. You go down 3-1 to the Dodgers, I don't like your chances.
No,
I think
sir.
you got to get it tonight and tie it up. The Yankees are back in Cleveland playing the Guardians, so we'll track that throughout the afternoon. Jonas,
Yes.
you have a list prepared for us, right?
I do.
3 things Brad Treliving got right, 3 things he got wrong.
Yes, I'm making this declaration now, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Which one do you want to start on
You
the
tell
positive
me.
side,
You've
negative side?
accused-
Oh, you
Jeff's
you
accused me
choose.
of being negative. Like, go ahead. Do you want me to do negative or positive or?
Why don't you go ahead, Jonas, and do? You're always negative, so just do the negative part. Just do
Okay.
the negative only.
I
It's
think
probably
I'm
all
just-
you have on your list anyway.
No, I think I'm realistic.
His 3 things he got right are like change the water bottles in the room.
No, I don't think that.
They got a better bus when they're on the road.
Let's start with the positive.
No, let's start with the negative so you finish
we build
strong.
to the positive?
I think that's probably more appropriate.
Okay.
Give us the 3 things Brad Treliving has got wrong, and then we'll finish on the positive side.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
come on, Jonas.
Let's
Let me just clarify before you start this list. Is this like declaring them wrong, or what you've seen through 4 games? What you like?
I'm glad you
seem
asked
to-
that because
Seem to be wrong.
seem to be concerning because it's 4 games. I have no idea what they got right and what they got wrong.
Okay, go
I have
ahead.
theories.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Let's start with the theories.
All right, go with your theories.
Number 1, I think I have to stick to the order, right?
You can do whatever you want.
should
I don't know
probably
how
stick to
Joe
the
from the
order.
Bridge is
I think
operating
they'd be
this.
happy if I
You want to go 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1?
3, 2, 1.
Give me a 3, 2, 1.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
I prefer a 3, 2, 1. I like a
All right.
countdown.
Number 3, I don't really get why they bought back Timothy Liljegren. They were in a weird situation this summer with his contract and arbitration, and it was hard to trade him. But it's like, if this was going to be what it was, where he's just like a 7th defenseman making $3 million, that money could have been spent elsewhere.
I'm surprised that's number
Amen.
3. I'm
Yeah.
surprised that's number 3. Now I can't
It's
wait
not.
to
It's
see.
not ranking. Like, this is just.
Okay, these are just
These are-
3 things in no particular
Yes.
order. Then I
Yes.
don't know why we just went through that.
I don't know.
About 3,
I
2,
was
1 or
confused.
not. But I'm with you. They didn't have to qualify him. They could have just walked away and said,
Yes.
forget it, we're done.
And we probably would have criticized that because
I
we'd be
wouldn't have. I know what Timothy Liljegren is. He
Okay.
can't play in the playoffs. He will not play in the playoffs. He will not be a guy that
Yes.
will perform for you in big playoff games. The only thing that matters with this team is how are they going to be set up in the playoffs?
Yes.
Especially the ticket attached. to
$3
it.
million.
It's not like it's 1.2 or something. 3 sheets?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yes.
So
You're right.
We
Just
all
don't
agree
qualify.
across the
Yes,
across
that's
the board
good.
on
We're
that.
we're building camaraderie.
I like this. Okay.
It'll never be camaraderie. Go ahead with number 2.
What else do you have?
I think you might agree with this one. I did not get it at the time. I still do not agree with it, although you see some of the contracts being handed out right now. But the Joseph Woll extension just never made sense to me. I get you're trying to hedge in case he has a great year, but let's see him play a full year. Let's see him be healthy. Let's see him excel. I did not understand why they did that. It still might turn out to be a win. It could go great. But as of right now and the way it started for him, that's one thing I don't like.
Yeah, it's tough to argue that right now in the moment because of what's going on with him.
But like you guys said, when this happened, when he got hurt before opening night, this is going to be a thing the whole year, right?
It feels like
you're
his
always
whole
in the back of
career.
your mind being like, is he going to get hurt? Is he going to, you know what I mean? That's
Right.
always going to be there until it's proven otherwise.
And they got a discount if he was going to give them 40 starts with a
Did they?
9-17 save percentage.
What was he going to get?
That's the thing. I guess
Four and a half, 4? I don't know.
Okay, here. Let me paint a picture
Yeah,
for you.
I'll listen.
He gives them 45 starts,
Mm-hmm.
9-15 save percentage, but he wins 2 rounds for them.
Okay.
They're going to have to pay him a lot more than $3.8 million.
I'm not, it's 3.66, but I'm not
3.66.
maybe. I mean, I think he still would have been RFA.
Yeah.
So maybe he goes to, I think.
Maybe he says final
arbitration.
sign a 1-year deal.
Yeah, and maybe you have but
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
I want to
I don't think
At
I
the
want
end of the
some
day,
crazy
guys, this
discount.
thing could have gone either way, and it will continue to go either way. But the optics right off the hop for a guy that the only thing left for him to do was play good and be healthy didn't start that way. So obviously, it's a concern, and you have question marks. I do not disagree with number 2 at all.
Well, and here's the counter to that and what they're thinking. And I understand their logic. I do.
Yeah,
because
sure.
if he turns into a stud number 1, it is an incredible contract.
yeah, I mean, with teams paying these guys $8 million, you're
Absolutely.
getting 3.6.
It's a great deal. And if you look at Bobby McMahon. They jumped on McMahon, and the logic was, are you sure this guy's an NHL player? Again, it's only a few games, and he was scratched the first game. Mm-hmm. He's looked like one of the last 2 nights, and he's making 1.3. Right? They jumped on that. They said, we like it. We're going to pay you now because we think you're going to give us value. And if he plays the rest of the year or the rest of the contract the way he has basically his last 30 games in the National Hockey League, that's an incredible discount that they're getting. That's the logic behind the Woll deal, but he's got to be healthy to actually make it worth it.
Well, we also need to still
and he's got to prove he can keep
everyone
playing.
says we know that he's a great goal. I don't know that.
Talent-wise, he looks very good.
But he's barely played.
I understand that, but still,
But
talent-wise,
27, 30 games. Okay.
in those games, would you
Okay.
agree that he's looked pretty good?
Yes.
Okay.
But
Dude, I
there's
would
also-
say he's had he's probably had 10 games tops where you're like, wow, that could be top end. That's what we're talking about here. A sample size of 10 games
Thank
you.
with
I know,
wow
exactly.
factor.
But a few of those have been in the playoffs. Game 5 and 6,
Yeah, okay.
games 4 and 5 against Florida
Fair.
last year.
And to Jeff's point earlier, they haven't had that very much at all.
There you
Then, anyway,
go. Okay, what do you have at number 1?
the center ice situation. And this is in the regular season, I think they'll get by fine with what they have. I think they will try to make a trade, but this is not good enough for a Stanley
To win a Stanley Cup.
Yes.
Matthews, Tavares, Domi,
Holmberg, Camp. This is
Camp.
not good enough. And I thought they should have addressed it in the summer. I know they tried and were looking at things, and all those centers, Chandler Stevenson, Elias,
Well, you're not
Home
paying
got
that kind of money.
massive
It's crazy.
and you can't change the defense if you're going to get those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like how they handled the William Nylander thing with the whole center ice for a week and a half. And so now they're in the same
What do you not like about it? They came to some agreement that he was going to try center ice, and then they just said screw it.
Are you serious?
Well, do you know something that I don't know?
No,
what is your take?
literally, they asked him in the summer, will you consider playing center? He's like, yes, but I need time. And they're like, cool.
Do you think they should have kept going with that
Yes.
experiment?
What is 10 games in October to find out if this guy can play
Because here's
center?
the simple truth about the subject, Jonas. He's not a centerman.
Then
he did
why
play
do that?
center? I believe he was even drafted as a centerman.
He was a center before he got to the
in the
NHL.
National Hockey League. I was drafted as a centerman too, but in the end of my career, I was a scoring right winger, and that was the best place for me to play.
Then
And
don't
you were
come
doing
into
a disservice to me by putting me at center ice.
Then don't come into camp saying we're going to try you at center. Like that's
Okay,
that's
fine, but
still-
but now it's irrelevant now.
yeah,
They
but like
moved on.
okay,
like,
but the point is like their center ice situation was a problem last year. They knew it was a problem at the end of last year.
they have not addressed.
They have not
it.
addressed it.
Yes.
Well,
That's
the
it.
problem, guys, is they
That's
got one
valid.
guy who's floating between basically 2 and 3 center. That makes $11.7 million.
Just 11.
11.
Or
Are you talking
ele-
Tavares? 11.
Yeah, it's like John is at a point in his career. He's in the last year of his deal, and
Mm-hmm.
if it's not elite top end performance, you're like,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
a guy
and-
that's playing well. He looks good.
Yeah.
But it's still $11 million.
Yes.
and that's where the Liljegren money comes in too.
Right. So
Where
something that's 14 million.
maybe you apply that to something
get
up the
a
middle of the ice, or you bank it and you can accrue cap space and get somebody at the deadline. And I'm sure that's what they're going to be looking to do. But they're not going to be alone. Every top-end team in the league is looking for center ice help come the deadline. So
And the problem is like what do you have to trade to get a center?
well, that's the issue. They've gone all in year after year after year that it's difficult to accrue that kind of.
Which is why it would have made sense to give the Nylander thing a go. Like they would have won if they played 10 games with Nylander at center. Would they?
But if he's not a
are there
center, he's not a
chances-
center, though.
But how do you know if like you're not? Anyway, let's.
I think we know that he's not.
I
don't
don't
think
know
Willie
that.
wants to play that. I don't think Willie had any interest in playing up the middle of the
I
ice.
know from literally talking to him, he had interest in playing it.
Willie was 100%
He told
committed.
me.
He's dying to play center ice.
Not anyway. Let's move.
Well,
on.
you tell us. That's a big scoop. You've spoken to him
this
directly.
was published,
I know
like-
you've written about it. You've
Having
spoken to him.
interest is a lot different. People will say, "Oh, I have interest in that." And you know what they do? They don't do it.
He
So-
literally was preparing in the summer during his on ice drills to play center.
Oh, really? How's
Yes.
that? I've never heard of a guy training for center
let's
ice
move
position.
on.
Like, anyway,
He's
let's
playing
get to
beer
the
league
positive.
games in Stockholm.
Let's
up the
keep
middle of the
going.
ice. All right, why don't we come back with the positive?
Okay.
Right, because I want to reset this whole scene.
All
The
Jeff's
three
negativity.
things Brad Treliving got right
right.
are coming up. Okay, and Bruce Boudreau will join us. Luke Wilson coming up as well. Pierre LeBrun. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Jonas Siegel is in here, and Jonas is putting together a 3-pack of lists. 3 things Brad Treliving got wrong, which he has already revealed, and those are a thing of the past. Now we turn the page. We get to the positive things. The 3 things Brad Treliving got right. This is what we're talking about, Jonas. The Leafs are 3-1. They're looking great. People are buzzing. What do you got for us?
So I think my list might surprise you because it's 4 games, so I can't really say some of the big contracts in the offseason were good or bad yet. So we'll
But you have
start there.
theories, right? You have positive
Well,
theories,
yeah,
I hope.
Let's start with number 1.
Okay.
There's no order. Craig Berube. I was like a little more skeptical, I think, than most people, just because, I don't know, like just hiring a coach because you won a cup doesn't really tend to translate at all, like ever.
You liked the music in practice too, didn't you, Jonas?
Actually, that's not really.
Every once in a while, you like
Yeah,
a little bit of
sometimes.
music.
And that's gone. No more music at practice. That's,
So him winning a Stanley Cup was not a positive thing in your opinion.
No, it's just like if that's the only reason you're hiring him, like
Yeah.
the only guy who's gone from team to team and won cups is Scotty Bowman. So
Right. It's
like
tough to
that's what
do.
you're that's what
Very
you're counting
tough.
on. That's not gonna be the reason or
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be the reason. But the early going, like what I will say is his temperament seems to be the right one for where the team is at right now. And so like it's looking like it was the right again, 4 games. But it's looking like he was the right hire at the right time for where they're at, like with their players, like their top guys being, like we talked about, 27, 28. A lot of issues, obviously, in the playoffs. He's won in the playoffs at least once with St. Louis, gone on some runs. So Craig Berube.
Yeah, I think that's valid. And listen, there's a lot of nostalgia in this fan base about the Pat Burns days and the Pat Quinn days.
Yeah.
And Berube leans that direction.
Yeah.
Right? He's got that type of vibe, like a sheriff behind the bench.
Gruff.
The players don't really want to mess with him, because of who he is and what he's capable of. Like when he called timeout and he was snapping last night, he looked like he was staring through the soul of Pontus Holmberg. And Holmberg was like, get me off the ice.
But it's
please.
just like it's just an understanding. Craig Berube is a great guy. Loves golf, likes doing fun stuff. But when it comes to the game and him being behind the bench, it's about winning and it's serious stuff. Obviously, have fun. You got to have fun, enjoy the game. But it's like it's going to be work and it's going to be like serious. That's the approach there, and I love the approach.
Yeah.
It's like it's just like the game itself. There's certain areas of the ice where it's party time. You want to do some dangles in the corner 200 feet from your net, go ahead and try to beat a guy. But if you do it in the wrong areas, that is just, you're going to be in the no fun zone with the coach. So it's business, man. It's business.
Well, and it did really feel like it. It's felt like so far they needed a change. Like they needed something. Of course. You might argue they needed more change, but like the change from Keefe to Berube felt or feels now as necessary.
I think that's significant for a lot of people's reaction to the 3-1 start as well. Yeah. Is that if it was 3-1 with Keefe behind the bench,
yeah, you'd be like, yeah, we've seen this.
I don't know what the reaction would be, and even if they had all the same signings, that like Tanev was here and Ekman Larson and Lorentz and Stolarz, it would still feel like past generations for some reason. And you could tell it was stale. Something had to change, and Berube has certainly represented that. All right, you got Craig Berube as one of the three things that Brad Treliving has gotten
that
right.
I'm confident. Well, I guess I shouldn't say.
You have that theory.
Semi-confident.
You're moving in that direction.
I'm going to go with Steven.
Oh, you tried to sneak in a little bit of negativity there on your positive list.
No, I don't know yet.
There wasn't any wavering on the negative list. On the negative,
there was.
There wasn't a lot of wavering.
I said Joseph Wall that extension might turn out to be great.
Okay, you're right. Anyhow, apologies, Jonas. Okay.
I'm very confident that signing Steven Lorentz for $775,000 is going to work out. And I think that was a smart signing. Like, I looked at what they did in the offseason before we got to camp and learned about him coming to camp on a PTO, and I was like, they didn't really add any forwards, and like they didn't exactly have great defensive forwards before, and they're supposed to get better defensively. And like you look at Lorentz, kills penalties, the coaching staff loves him. You can see they really trust him. He just brings a little bit of something different that I think they needed. So I'm very confident in that signing working out for them.
Yeah, he's a guy that they're putting out with the big boys late in the game that's close, right? Yes. Like if you have a 1-goal lead, Lorentz is playing with 2 minutes to go. And Domi's coming off.
Yes.
Or,
you
whatever
need that, right?
Yes,
like
you need
close playoff games, you need someone. I mean, he won a cup, obviously, last year in a depth role with Florida. You need people who can close out a game.
I love the kid. I think he's fantastic, and he's an under-the-radar signing, and I'm not going to blow it out of proportion, but I think he's a great fit and a fantastic signing.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious what his future is going to hold because he is on a 1-year deal. This is where it's 4 games in, and you're like, do you start talking about extending him?
Can we talk about this? Why does everybody need an extension? This is the craziest thing.
It's
with this
Toronto
team.
in a nutshell.
It's like they need to sign everybody.
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly. Stolarz, as of July 1st, you can give him an extension. You have to do it because he started 3 games.
It's because I've told you guys 100 times. It's a watered-down league, and everyone is so desperate. They're like, I got to have that. I can't go without that. It's insane. Go ahead with number 3.
Breathe and just let the season play out.
Let things happen.
Let it play out with everything across the board.
Having said that, you mentioned it before, the McMahon extension is going to work out. I was like, why do this now? Like, he's barely played, and everyone looks at last season and is like, oh, it was like he really only became something interesting in the last month and a half. Before that, he was on the 4th line. It wasn't clear what he was. He was in and out of the lineup. But now it looks like he's going to score 15 to 20 goals. He can play up and down the lineup. He brings energy. He's physical. He's got good speed. For $1.35 million, he's making the same money as Ryan Reeves for this year and next. It looks like
great value. He looks really good. And what I liked about last night, again, it's 1 game, is if they're going to spread the wealth with Matthews and Marner and Tavares and Willie, and they're going to try to spread this out over 3 lines, you need guys who are capable of keeping up with them.
Yeah.
And the goal we're showing right now, that first goal he scored, that's a brilliant play by Nylander, but
got to put it in.
You got to score that goal, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's a great play if you shoot it right in the guy's pads and curl up ice. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to close if you're going to get those opportunities, and it's not always going to go in, but it's got to go in 20 times over the course of the year. And he looks as if he's capable of doing that. And I found it interesting they took Pacioretty out last night. I think that's the right play. Max Pacioretty should not be guaranteed anything. And I'll bet you Robertson comes out at some point in the next couple of weeks. I would fully expect that he takes a seat. They move pieces around. And I don't know what happens when Yarncroke comes back. I have no idea where he's going to play.
We'll see.
There could be an injury. Anything could possibly happen. All right, those are your 3 things that he got right.
Yeah.
Interesting from Jonas. All right, the things that Treliving got right. Hiring Craig Berube, Steven Lorentz signing Bobby McMahon extension. The wrongs, leaving the center situation the way it is. Joseph Wall extension, bringing back Timothy Liljegren.
How in the hell do you not have Tanev Ekman-Larsson on that?
Because I need more time.
here?
I need
What are
more
we doing
time. I'm
here?
not going to say a 4-year and 6-year contract are right because they played 4 games.
Okay, well, get your calendar out. When you're back in 2 months, we'll do the list again.
I need time.
How much
No,
time
we'll
do you-
do-
I don't know. I need a full year. I need to see what happens.
Right.
I don't know how many games Tanev's going to play. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, they're big contracts.
They're big contracts.
Through
They're
4
older
games, they've looked
players.
very, very good.
Yes,
4 games,
4
but they've looked phenomenal.
4 games.
Yes.
I've made this
They're
mistake
veterans. I don't.
too many times in my career where I'm like, oh, that looks like a great signing after a month, and then
Yeah.
it's like, no.
That's reasonable. I do think that is a bigger picture conversation. Like, these are long-term deals that
What's
not
going to happen in
massive
the playoffs?
money, but,
I don't know.
well, I think those 2 guys, I have as much faith in them, if not more, than anyone else. Like, based on what they've done in the past.
Sure.
Ekman-Larsson just won a Stanley Cup and played every single night.
Yeah, as a third pairing defenseman.
Right. But still, power play won and was playing decent minutes. And
I'm not going to rain on your parade, even though I've rained on it.
it's not about rating on the parade. You're asking what they're going to do in the playoffs. I think my question marks would start well before I got to those 2 guys.
No, for
of
sure.
what I think I'll get.
But for me to declare
those,
those contracts to be wins 4 games into the season, to me feels crazy.
it's premature. I understand
just
that.
a little.
All right, Jonas.
Perspective.
All right, Bruce Boudreau, his perspective on what he saw last night and a bunch of big games in the NHL tonight. Vancouver, the Elias Pettersson stat pack that's all over Twitter is just outrageous.
Well, if you're shocked that surfaced, that's what you're going to get. So.
Yeah, guy hasn't scored. He signed a massive ticket. He scored 1 goal, 5-on-5. 1, and it was the first game after he signed. So more on that into the next hour. And Luke Wilson coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.